ABC General Hospital spoilers reveal that Port Charles is heading into a crisis that is far more dangerous than a single crime or betrayal because it is being driven by fear, loyalty, revenge, and love twisted by pressure. At the center of this storm is Jacinda, who becomes entangled with Brennan at the worst possible moment, when Valentine's problems are growing more urgent and more destructive. Brennan never offers help freely. He turns desperation into leverage, and Jacinda knows that any alliance with him will come at a cost. Still, she feels trapped. If she refuses him, Valentine could spiral into even greater danger. If she accepts, she risks becoming part of Brennan's plan, and in the process, endangering Michael emotionally and strategically. That is what makes her situation so painful. She is not acting like a villain, but her compromises may still hurt the people she wants to protect most. Jacinda's danger lies in her inner conflict. She still has a conscience, which means every step she takes into Brennan's world costs her something. Brennan understands that softness and exploits it. He does not force her directly as much as he creates the illusion that helping him is the only moral option left. Jacinda begins telling herself she is only crossing one line to prevent something worse, but in Port Charles that kind of compromise never stays small. One concession leads to another until the original reason for doing it is buried beneath guilt and damage. Michael becomes the emotional price attached to every choice she makes. If she stays close to him while secretly acting under Brennan's pressure, then even her sincere feelings become contaminated by secrecy. If she pulls away to protect him, the distance looks suspicious. If she tells him the truth, she exposes him to danger. If she lies, the lie begins destroying the relationship from within. Michael may not know the full story, but he will sense that something is shifting, because betrayal in Port Charles often reveals itself emotionally long before it becomes visible in evidence. What makes Jacinda and Michael's connection so compelling is that it is not built on a lack of feeling, but on too many dangerous attachments colliding at once. Jacinda may genuinely care about Michael, perhaps even more deeply because she knows she is dragging him toward a storm he does not deserve. Michael, meanwhile, is compassionate enough to understand that wrongdoing is not always born from cruelty, yet that same compassion makes him vulnerable. He knows that love is often used as an excuse to ask for forgiveness without true accountability. If Jacinda sinks deeper into Brennan's machinery, Michael will not simply respond with anger. He will feel torn between wanting to believe in her and realizing she may be the path through which danger reaches him. That kind of contradiction does not explode immediately. It slowly erodes trust, turning warmth into doubt and intimacy into suspicion. Brennan's real power lies in his ability to make emotional destruction look strategic. He does not just attack people directly. He poisons relationships, creating confusion so that those closest to each other begin doing his work for him. Around Jacinda and Michael, he can create damage through rumors, suspicious timing, secret meetings, and carefully managed revelations involving Valentine. None of those moves need to be catastrophic on their own. Their strength lies in accumulation. Brennan understands that once people are emotionally destabilized, they become reactive, and reactive people are much easier to manipulate. In this way, he can keep pressure on Valentine, compromise Jacinda, and unsettle Michael all at the same time. While Jacinda is being pulled deeper into Brennan's shadow, Carly and Valentine are quietly moving in the opposite direction. They are no longer satisfied with merely surviving Brennan. They are beginning to calculate what it would take to destroy him. That shift matters because surviving someone is defensive, while destroying them is intimate and dangerous. For Carly, the motivation is deeply personal because of Jason. Anything that threatens Jason strips away her patience and pushes her into a colder, more ruthless mindset. She can endure chaos and scandal, but once someone she loves is cornered by a man like Brennan, she stops asking how to survive and starts asking how to dismantle the threat completely. Valentine gives this revenge plan a darker kind of weight. He understands men like Brennan because he has spent too much of his life in worlds where morality is treated as weakness, and revenge is often the only form of order left. Carly brings fire to the alliance, while Valentine brings strategy. Together, they could become Brennan's downfall, or they could trigger an even greater catastrophe. Jacinda complicates that alliance because she is tied to both sides of the war. If she is cooperating with Brennan because of Valentine's crisis, then she is both inside the danger and emotionally connected to the people who want Brennan destroyed. That makes her either useful, dangerous, or doomed. Carly especially has no patience for uncertainty when family is at stake. If she begins to believe Jacinda's involvement with Brennan could endanger Michael, any sympathy she might have had will disappear. Carly does not believe good intentions erase damage. To her, once fear starts threatening her family, hesitation becomes betrayal. This creates the possibility of a fierce confrontation between Carly and Jacinda. Jacinda may believe she is making temporary sacrifices to contain something worse, but Carly will see only the trail of risk leading toward Michael and Jason. Once Carly decides someone's fear is becoming a threat to her family, she will stop viewing that person as conflicted and start seeing them as dangerous. This is where Jacinda's emotional collapse becomes more likely, because she is not built to fight Carly from a position of strength. Carly is relentless, seasoned, and driven by love sharpened into combat. Jacinda, by contrast, is operating from fracture. She is trying to survive Brennan, help Valentine, preserve her bond with Michael, and defend herself against Carly's suspicion all at once. That kind of pressure does not make people wiser. It makes them reactive, cornered, and more likely to make the very mistakes they once would have condemned. Jacinda may even lash out at Carly, not because Carly is entirely wrong, but because Carly threatens the last story Jacinda can still tell herself about why she is doing any of this. If Carly forces her to admit that her compromises are no longer protecting anyone, Jacinda may have to face the possibility that she is simply surviving at everyone else's expense. Valentine also carries his own burden of guilt because his crisis is what pulled so many other people into danger. His problems are no longer personal. They now ripple outward into Brennan's manipulations, Jacinda's compromises, Carly's revenge plans, and Michael's emotional vulnerability. He must constantly choose between different kinds of damage. Should he keep distance and let Jacinda bear more pressure, or intervene and make the conflict worse? Should he align completely with Carly even if it brings Michael and Jocelyn closer to the blast zone? Should he tell the whole truth and risk chaos, or continue withholding information in the name of strategy? These are not clean choices. They are choices between different forms of suffering, and that is what makes Valentine's partnership with Carly so volatile. They are united by anger and by the desire to strike back for Jason, but they are also both capable of justifying enormous destruction when they believe the target deserves it. Jocelyn becomes the emotional alarm bell in this story. Her instincts are simple and fierce. Protect Carly and Michael before the adults around her turn caution into paralysis. She has grown up watching lies be presented as protection and silence used as a weapon. Because of that history, she is less patient with complicated explanations and more focused on the human cost of delay. She does not need every secret detail to understand that Brennan is poisoning lives and that Jacinda's involvement may make everything worse. Once she reaches that conclusion, she will not stand aside. Her conflict with Jacinda is not rooted in jealousy or pettiness. It comes from fear and protective desperation. Jocelyn sees Michael at risk, Carly moving toward dangerous retaliation, and Jacinda drifting too close to a world of manipulation. She believes every delay raises the chance of irreversible damage, and that belief pushes her toward action. What makes Jocelyn so dangerous is that her protectiveness can harden into obsession. She begins watching Jacinda the way someone watches a crack spreading across glass, convinced that one more shift could bring everything down. Every unexplained meeting, every delayed answer, every guarded look becomes part of a larger pattern in Jocelyn's mind. She starts testing stories, tracking inconsistencies, and anticipating evasions. That does not make her entirely wrong, but it does make her vulnerable to escalation. She could confront Jacinda too aggressively, pressure Michael before he is ready, or even expose parts of Carly and Valentine's strategy while trying to protect them. In trying to stop disaster, she may trigger it. Jacinda is deeply unprepared for the intensity of Jocelyn's attention. Brennan is frightening because he is powerful. Carly is frightening because she is relentless. Jocelyn is frightening because her anger is still morally pure in a way that does not tire easily. If she decides Jacinda is lying or endangering Michael, she will keep coming, and she may start making reckless moves of her own. Michael becomes the emotional crossroads for everyone's motives. Brennan sees him as leverage. Jacinda sees him as the one person she wants to keep untouched by all of this. Carly sees him as family worth fighting for at any cost. Jocelyn sees him as someone who has already endured enough betrayal. Michael himself has to stand in the middle of all these conflicting forms of protection and still try to find the truth. That is what makes his position so tragic. If Jacinda continues acting under Brennan's pressure, Michael may feel that he is being loved and manipulated at the same time. If Carly and Valentine move too aggressively, he may be dragged into a war he never chose. If Jocelyn pushes too hard, he may become defensive when he most needs clarity. The tragedy is that Michael may begin to distrust the very people trying hardest to save him, not because they do not love him, but because their methods begin to resemble the threats they claim to oppose. There is also a grim symmetry in the idea that revenge for Jason may destabilize everyone else. Jason's presence has always inspired extreme loyalty in Port Charles, and that loyalty often pushes people toward self-destruction. Carly and Valentine's mission against Brennan may be justified, but justice in this world is never neutral. It changes the people who pursue it. Carly may believe she is doing what is necessary, and perhaps she is, but the deeper she goes into planning Brennan's fall, the more she risks becoming emotionally unreachable even to those who love her. Jocelyn may see that change and panic. Michael may sense it and withdraw. Jacinda may become more desperate, convinced that one mistake will destroy everything. Brennan, of course, thrives in exactly that environment. Men like him do not always need to win outright. Sometimes it is enough for them to make decent people destroy each other while trying to stop them. The possibility of an open battle between Jacinda and Carly is one of the most volatile parts of the entire arc. Jacinda is not just defending herself from suspicion. She is defending the fragile belief that she can still make the right choice before it is too late. Carly, on the other hand, stopped believing long ago that truth naturally reveals itself if people are given enough time. She believes in pressure. She believes secrets become weapons the moment they are kept under dangerous circumstances. If Jacinda stands, even unintentionally, between Carly and Brennan's downfall, Carly will tear into every comforting excuse Jacinda has built around her choices. She may accuse her not only of lying, but of wanting to be needed by dangerous men, of confusing guilt with love, and of dragging Michael toward ruin while pretending to protect him. Those accusations could devastate Jacinda because they strike at the deepest fears she already carries about herself. Valentine may try to mediate, but by this point mediation becomes nearly impossible. If he defends Jacinda, Carly may suspect he is protecting strategy at Michael's expense. If he distances himself from Jacinda, he may destroy the little trust that still keeps her functional inside Brennan's web. Either way, he cannot escape the fact that his own crisis helped set all of this in motion. He is trying to play chess on a board made of damaged emotions and fractured loyalties. Meanwhile, Jocelyn keeps moving closer to action. She refuses to be passive and wants to intercept disaster before it happens. But that impulse may push her toward surveillance, dangerous confrontations, and reckless exposure. She may believe that if she just uncovers enough proof about Jacinda and Brennan, she can still prevent collapse. But in Port Charles, truth revealed at the wrong moment rarely saves anyone cleanly. It can instead trigger panic, violence, retaliation, or flight. Jocelyn's courage may become the exact spark that lights the fuse. That is why the looming tragedy feels so powerful. Every character is being driven by love, but under pressure that love is mutating into something destructive. Jacinda's love becomes secrecy. Carly's love becomes retaliation. Jocelyn's love becomes obsession. Michael's love becomes vulnerability. Valentine's loyalty becomes manipulation justified by necessity. Even Brennan feeds on attachment, using it as raw material for control. This is not a simple battle between good and evil. It is a story about what happens when fear enters love and convinces everyone that survival requires becoming harder, colder, and more ruthless than they once were. If the storyline continues down its darkest path, Brennan's downfall will not come as a clean victory. Even if Carly and Valentine succeed in striking back, the cost may be enormous. Michael may no longer know whom to trust. Jocelyn may carry the guilt of crossing lines she cannot uncross. Jacinda may lose both Michael and the version of herself she believed could survive compromise without losing her soul. That is Brennan's greatest victory, not simply causing pain, but infecting everyone around him with his worldview long enough that they start wounding each other in his shadow. At its core, this story asks a brutal question that Port Charles never stops asking in new forms. How much of yourself can you sacrifice to save someone else before there is nothing worth saving left? Jacinda is living that question with every step she takes toward Brennan. Carly is living it through her willingness to burn away mercy, if that is what avenging Jason requires. Jocelyn is living it through her refusal to stand still while danger closes in around Carly and Michael. Michael is living it through his struggle to remain open-hearted in a world that keeps rewarding mistrust. Valentine is living it through the unbearable knowledge that saving one person often poisons the lives of others. That is why this arc feels less like a straightforward fight against Brennan and more like the beginning of an emotional siege, where every relationship is under suspicion, every motive is wounded, and every attempt to protect someone threatens to become an act of destruction.